Hashtag no music, no intro. The draft, the 2023 NFL draft, at least for the Saints, is over. There's still like 7 more picks left to happen before the draft is officially concluded. Uh, I am still in New Orleans in a hotel on Canal, planning to go enjoy the city with my hashtag Saints Twitter podcast brethren tonight one more time before I leave tomorrow. Ryan had to leave today this morning, go back to Alabama. But we gotta, as great as this week, the weekend was great. The weekend was amazing. I was taking a shower this morning. I was like, man, I don't know financially if it could be pulled off, but maybe having a little draft party, every year might have to be, we'll have to wait and see.
Might have to be a thing, bro.
Might gotta be a tradition, bro.
Bro, I swear, I was thinking about that shit, bro. I was like, man, can you imagine us like 75 years old, sitting around,
like in life, bro.
Still talking about, man, remember when they took Cesar Ruiz?
Peyton Turner, who? But I feel like we have to give credit to the Saints this draft. I know everyone. I gotta start somewhere though. I know we gotta talk about their pick in round 2, Isaiah Foskey. They drafted another edge rusher. They did some other things throughout the draft, but I can't start there, Ryan. I can't. I gotta start with Finding fucking Nemo being traded to Sean Payton to the Broncos. It allowed the Saints to get a 6th round pick and essentially move up from where they were picking to draft A.T. Perry. And whether or not A.T. Perry works out, wide receiver from Wake Forest, that's a conversation for another day. Adam Troutman, Finding Nemo, he can't hurt me no more, bro. Can't do it, bro.
He done.
Can't hurt me.
That's on Sean Payton. That's on you. That's
on
you, buddy.
And we have been, and we will continue to be, as it is justified, if it is justified, but we have been critical of the team since Dennis Allen became head coach. But I do want to start in terms of giving credit. There has been bad personnel decisions that happened last year, right? Marcus Williams, bringing in Marcus May, Honey Badger, probably wasn't the best signing. So there's been some hiccups, and we have been thoroughly over them. But identifying a player who maybe he'll go to the Broncos and he'll thrive, right? Maybe so. But identifying like this guy he's not working out for us. We need to move on.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to do the whole sunken cost fallacy, we traded so many picks to go up and get him, and so he has to work out. A lot of what they were doing with Marcus Davenport, they didn't do that anymore with Adam Troutman. And for that, I got to give them credit for. This draft as a whole, I think just as a whole, and I don't want fans to get like, Adams. This draft as a whole is probably just on initial glance one of my favorite drafts that they have had since 2017.
I agree. Like it's easily that's the first thought that comes to mind. Like just the day of the draft, sitting here, I feel fine about it. You know what I'm saying? And I know my feelings has no impact on the outcome, and it's not even about the outcome. It's not about how these players will turn out because we don't know. But it's just as a Saints fan, we've had those years where it's like, what are they doing, bro? Like, it's like, what exactly what's the vision? You know what I'm saying?
What's the vision, bro? Yeah.
And this year, look, we could throw it all together. You could throw a free agency in there. You could throw the draft and all that. I'm not answering that question of what's the vision.
It's clear.
Like
it's clear, bro.
Clear as day.
and you talked about this yesterday that you're kind of excited to see how the rest of the draft played out.
Yeah,
More so that you could kind of see the draft, see how the team building was holistically from the out, like a complete picture. And I think you said it perfectly. The vision is Da has a certain way of how he wants the team to be. He
yeah,
wants a tough, not that Sean Payton didn't, right? But he wants a tough team in the trenches. He wants to be able to run the ball, play possession, win possessions in terms of offenses. The offense will be probably not too I won't say explosive, but not too risky taking. And now they went
right,
out, got the quarterback to do that, Derek Carr. They realized that with AK, whether it be play calling, pending suspension, but they know he needed a running mate. So they boom
yeah,
went out and got Jamal Williams. Um, just out the gate of free agency, just two big things. Defensive tackle was a huge need. They lost David Onyemata. They lost, even though my reservations and my notice with him as a player in terms of Marcus Davenport, he was a player that basically he's not on the team anymore. So those are snaps that
right,
were gone. Caden Ellis gone. And we've talked about this ad nauseum throughout this offseason of just, our biggest fear was boom, you get Derek Carr and you get Jamal Williams and the offense gets better. And maybe we get a healthy Michael Thomas, but then the defense, because of so many players that have been
right.
lost in terms of attrition, maybe there's a regression defensively. Well, the first two picks, right? Brian Breesy, we already talked about him, the first round pick, and what he could bring defensively from the interior. And people kind of got my mentions kept going back to like his injury. Like he had like one major fucking injury, and like
Yeah.
the rest have been, a kidney infection, and then he had a shoulder injury. Like what? We are the first people. Like if this is what we are the you do if we are okay with picks, it should probably be pretty telling because we have no problem ripping into the Saints
No,
draft. Like that is
no
our
problem.
specialty. Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, but it's our specialty. So if I'm saying, man, I really like the Breesy pick, and it's like, oh, yeah, like this man is not Haloi Kakaha. Like this
Right.
man has
He
intact
has
ACLs.
knees.
He
His
has
knees are
knees.
missing.
Lieutenant Dan got new legs.
He ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan. Bruh. And it's like, and the thing with Brees is like, bruh, like God was leaning on him like Job, bro. Like he just had one of those, like it was just, like I'm sure he was just looking into the sky. What did I do, Lord? But I'm just saying it wasn't nothing like crying. It wasn't like he had like 3 knee injuries. He had the
Right.
ACL, he had a shoulder, he had a kidney infection. Like, oh Lord. Then we know about the stuff with his little sister. So
Okay, so I'm not gonna say it all out on the pod. I'm not gonna say it out on the pod. But if you're in our Discord, the the plot line of shout out to our dude Brock.
bruh.
I'm not gonna say it on the pod. Like that's one thing I'm afraid that we can actually cancel over Brock. When I tell you that plot line has me in
Bruh.
stitches,
That's gonna be an insider forever, bro.
bro.
Insider.
It's like unless you're in the Discord, you have no idea what we're talking about. But if you're
You know,
in,
you know.
so that's how they started last night off, right? Um, and then round two. So I want to give a little inside information on round two, and then after that, my information after that kind of inside information after that kind of tapers off. But their board for round two were 3 players. Well, probably more than 3 players, but the 3 players that it kind of broke down to was Jonathan Mingo, the wide receiver from Ole Miss. That was originally going to be their pick at 40 if he was there. He goes to pick right before the Carolina. And then it was Isaiah Foskey, edge rusher from Notre Dame, and then the other player who was in that bubble was Brian Branch, safety / nickel kind of hybrid
Yeah.
player from Alabama. Something happened, and I don't know who pounded the table the hardest, But when Mingo went off the board, so, even maybe before Mingo went off the board, someone won the argument of behind the table the hardest of them drafting Foskey over Brian Branch. Now, I it's a wait and see thing because Brian Branch gets drafted. I think he's on the Lions, if my memory
Yeah,
is correct. So he's
which is
playing for the
not
Lions.
which was makes sense to me. We got Aaron
Yes,
Glenn. Aaron Glenn, he comes from that same school, so that just made sense.
Lions. I think the Lions had a great draft. Also, quick aside, fuck the Eagles.
Yes,
Fuck
capital F.
the Eagles. But going back to Foskey, I watched him a bit yesterday. I tried to watch him a bit today. Been a little busy. Haven't had my time to really grind the tape. I'll be able to do that when I'm in the Louisville airport tomorrow for fucking 6 hours.
Oh,
Hey, listen, it was a cheap flight to get out here. You kind of have to roll the punches sometimes.
hey, I know, bro.
Um, Immediately watching Foskey, my first thought that came to mind is this is the best defensive end the Saints have drafted since drafting Cam Jordan. Now, I understand that they drafted Trey Hendrickson, and Trey Hendrickson has developed and gone on to become
Right.
a top tier elite edge rusher. I'm just strictly going college tape. When you watch him as a player, and I know people are like, oh, he's a little tight in his hips, blah blah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
He is explosive off the edge. He makes fucking plays. When he does get to the quarterback, he is trying to rip the ball out of the quarterback's hands.
yes.
And I put this on Twitter and this fucking blew up. But if this is not a ringing indictment of how they feel about Peyton Turner as a player,
Oh, come on now.
I don't know what people are like. No, there's a dude on Twitter literally tried to use the quote, "Oh, this is iron sharpens iron." Sir,
I saw that.
what
Bro.
iron is fucking Peyton Turner?
I was hollering, bro. Hollering.
Aluminum? Like, anyway, I
Peyton
was
Turner better hope he have a job in the next couple of months. That's what we need to
talk about it because I can now. I don't want this. I don't want to speak this into existence because even though they drafted an edge rusher in round 2, I do think there is a want for them to sign another veteran edge rusher.
Oh,
Whether that I just if they could go out and get Leonard Floyd on top of this draft and what they did to start free agency, bruh. As much as you and I have criticized Da and Mickey within this last year and a half, bruh, until I see the results on the field and my eyes tell me otherwise, I'll be mum and shit, bruh. Like they would have shut me up.
right.
But
I
if they
agree,
go out
bro.
and they get fucking Frank Clark and just kill the fucking
Please.
vibes, bro, I don't want it, man. I don't want it.
Somebody go. Just want somebody to go and get him. Somebody, anybody.
Can
I don't
Frank
care.
can Frank
If
Clark
the
just
Falcons could go and get him, I'll be fine if the Falcons go and get him.
can he do something that doesn't involve like punching a woman, knocking her unconscious, and getting in trouble within the next couple of weeks? That just would take him.
Please.
Please. But what was your? I mean, I don't know how much you watched of him. Um, Impressions of Foskey and them drafting him in round 2.
Well, it was interesting because I watched a good bit of him. Well, what I could find of him back in like February, like when I first started. Like, let me start looking at these draft prospects. Got my little list out. Looked at players that would that people say would be around in the end of the first round, and in the second round or whatever, mostly into the first round. And I looked at him and I, took my little notes and I was like, oh, this is a good, solid pass rusher, explosive, physical, big, tall,
Man,
meets all
he's explosive, bro.
yeah, meets all the the size and measurements that Saints like. I was like, man, this dude looks like a Saints defensive end. I noted, a few games he had some games where he was like, extremely active and impactful. Some games, he kind of went a little quiet, like against, Ohio State or whatever. But even in that game, when you look at him, it's not like, he's just getting beat. It's just, he was going against a dog. You know what I'm saying? He was going against a dog.
Is that Paris Johnson?
Paris Johnson, yeah. It is just one of them games. You know what I'm saying? So and that kind of reminded me of Cam Jordan because I remember uh, when he was coming out of Cal, he had that game. He went up against Tyron Smith, who eventually went to the
Did they go against each other in
Cowboys.
college?
Yeah, yeah, bro.
Damn. How
Smith
old are
put it on.
we?
I know, bro. And Smith put him on him, bro. Smith had him locked up. Had Cam Jordan locked up. But and look, I'm not saying Foster going to turn out to be Cam Jordan or whatever. That'd be like awesome. But I'm just saying, like, if people point to that game and be like, oh, well, that's just the game, bro. You know what I'm saying? Dogs versus dogs. So I just look at him, bro. To me, he has a pretty high floor.
Yeah.
As far as like, he should be like just at least a solid starting defensive end for you. Maybe in a rotation at worst. And at best, maybe he could become a nice, solid guys that can give you, 11, 12 sacks every other season. You know, I just come away. You look at him and it's like, okay, this is a football player. I don't have to squint to see. Oh,
You don't have to squint to see it.
maybe if he gains a little weight, or maybe if we
No, no.
further in
Keep
the just bring him
keep him the
just back
size
as
he's at.
is, coach him up a little more. Of course, he has to get better with his hands usage. They played him a lot of the 2-point stance. He's going to learn how to come out the 3-point, 4-point stance more, stuff like that.
They definitely
That's
did
what
play him a
coaching
lot
is for.
out of the 2-point stance. A lot.
Yeah. So that's what
Um,
coach leverage and all that. That's what coaching is for. He's going to learn all of that. That's the stuff where he has to get better at. But overall, I'm like, man, this is a good player. You know what I'm saying?
so
You
I'm
get
gonna
good players with good tape, bro.
that's
That's it.
it. I'm gonna read what our old pal Scott Wright of Draft Countdown said about
My
Foskey.
man.
He's not. Keep in mind, I didn't ask him about opinions about Foskey. He kind of hit me up, when he got drafted. Obviously, Scott was a huge Notre Dame fan. If you don't know who Scott is, he was the former owner of Draft Countdown for the draftcountdown.com for the longest time. Like the first, if you're a draftnik, an old school draftnik, that's kind of like the first place that we had like a draftnik community was Draft Countdown. So he texted me about Foskey when we drafted him, and I said, I don't know nothing about him. What are your thoughts being a Notre Dame fan? So I'm going to read this verbatim with his text message. Said is that Foskey has a great motor and can be moved around depending on the scheme. Not an explosive athlete, but good physical tools and room to squeeze more out of him if he can develop some more pass rush moves and counters. Obviously, great production, although it came in at bunches at times. I can take that, bro. I can take
Yeah.
that.
In the second round? Come on now.
So that said, one thing I wanted to hit on before I forget saying it, that the Saints, there's two. Well, I don't even consider Foskey kind of part of that. The Saints drafted every single player from Jay's list this draft, except for Keandre Miller, who wasn't able to work out pre-draft,
Yeah.
so he didn't have measurables. Foskey, also the quarterback, because we don't do quarterbacks on the list because they drafted so few. And the only reason Foskey technically didn't match was because he met every other metric except his 40 time was considered an outlier because of how good he ran the 40. I think it was like 4.5 something or something like that. And so he didn't meet or match based on that. But every other player, the safety they drafted, A.T. Perry, the guard they drafted, every other player is on the list, bro. Like that is insane.
That's insane. Like, she cracked the code. Basically, like, that's their board, pretty much.
Code, bro. It's a code. Anyway,
The only thing we'll have access to is like the inside information, the medical.
that's it. Like, yeah, like
and all that shit.
character and things like that. Let's move on to round 3, pick 71. Keandre Miller, running back, TCU. You and I have been screaming for them to draft a running back, to add another running back to this team for such a long period of time. Even though they signed Jamal Williams in free agency from the Lions, we still want another running back. They draft one. I would venture to say probably not the one people were expecting or maybe even wanted. But the one thing I remember about Miller as a player is that when TCU was going through like the playoffs and their run towards the national championship, I remember Miller before he got hurt he was giving it to teams, bro. I don't know if you. I mean, I know you're not a big college football watcher, and I'm
I
not
didn't
either.
watch. I didn't watch it.
But he was giving teams that long dick, bro. Like he
Mm,
really was kind of the motor. Him, and then kind of with their offensively, it was him in the run game, and then when they needed a big play, they would throw it to Quentin
quick
Johnson, and Quentin
passing.
Johnson would that was kind of like their meat and potatoes offense, right? And it worked. Like it got him to the national championship. They didn't win, and then he got hurt. I don't know if he got. I can't remember if he got hurt against Georgia or the game before Georgia, but he fits exactly what they want to do, what they
Yeah.
would want out of a running back. And I believe he's only turning 21 this year, so he's
Yeah.
hella young.
Yeah, he's 20 right now, bro. Young.
20. That's that's
Young,
that's
got
a
a lot of tread on the tires.
that's a baby, bro. It's like
Uh,
this kid is 15 years older than me, right?
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I know you probably haven't been able to watch him a whole bunch since he was
I
drafted
watched
today.
I watched a little bit. I watched a little bit. Look, bro, like I don't know what to say. Like the dude's a good running back. Like the dude, one cut, physical. Once he gets past the line, he can give you a move or two. Um, has some underrated speed to him. I wouldn't call him like
Pretty
a
good
home
balance.
run. Yeah. Oh, great balance, man. Like he
Mm-hmm.
just a good strong running back. Have like literally no. I'm not gonna say a guarantee, but I just have no question about him being a productive running back. How good would he be? I don't know. Like what I'm saying. Like I don't know if he's gonna be like a Pro Bowl or nothing like that. But this is a productive running back. He's the type of guy. If you give him a hole, bro, he's gonna get it. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna get it, and he's gonna get a little extra.
Would
He has the
you?
right mentality.
Yeah, I was about to ask you. Would you give me your thoughts of the quote he said
Alvin
regarding
Kamara,
AK and coming from for
love
number
it,
one depth chart spot?
love it. Man, that's what
I want
gotta
dogs,
think
bro.
like
Like
that.
if
Gotta
I
think
want
like that as a
dogs,
running back. I want
you got.
dog, bro. Come on, give me a
I
spot.
want not just running back. I want every player on.
Every player, yeah.
I, if you third string wide receiver, I want you wanting to be the number one wide receiver.
Exactly,
Just
exactly. No, I love it, man. I love it. And and again, you got to look at the whole totality. Look at the room now. Like from where we
mm-hmm.
were in January, now you got Alvin Kamara, you got Williams, you got you got Kendra right there. Is Mark Ingram? Is he still on the team?
I don't think so. I think he's like just a
A free
free
agent.
agent. Yeah,
Okay. That's a nice little room, bro. Like that's a
it
nice
is.
running back room. You know what I'm saying? Like because he's gonna compete with Jamal Williams, for now, but Jamal Williams on a nice little manageable contract where, he could be moved in a year or two, you know what I'm saying? It's all gonna be about the hot hand. And then we know Kamara with his legal situation. Plus, Kamara's contract,
Mm-hmm.
getting up in age where the production is not meeting the money and stuff like that. I'm not wishing, Kamara gets moved or nothing, but we know how this shit works. You know what I'm saying?
We know how the story goes.
So look. The one thing I'm not saying they were similar players, Kamara and Kendra Miller coming out, but I do get the same feeling watching him when I watched Kamara because I didn't know anything about Kamara when he came out, and watching him, I felt like there was some untapped potential, especially in the pass game. So I kind of feel like that, like we just didn't really see it with Kendra Miller, so we don't know. But I do feel like there's some untapped potential in the pass game with him, and we'll see how it works out. But I think they could
Right.
kind of open it up to see where he goes with these screen passes. Seen some screen passes, bro. Man, he get him on a screen with a little hole. Man, I forgot what team he did that against, but it was beautiful.
He is coming off a torn
MCL.
MCL
Mhm.
injury, so we kind of wait and see.
That was a little
There's no.
cold water right there.
I mean, it wouldn't.
Because I didn't know. I know most people knew he was injured, but that was just a little cold water. He was like, "Yeah, I should be healthy by camp." I was like,
It's the Saints way, bro. Saints
"Damn,
way.
right." Damn. But no, Spears the same way. Spears coming over and just like that.
So I apparently I didn't realize how the injury that Spears had or has, like, I don't know, Ian Rappaport reported like that basically like he doesn't have like cartilage in his knees anymore. I was like, oh shit.
Ooh,
Or I have to go get the quote. I guess he said it maybe like on the broadcast of potentially like why he fell. I'm trying to pull it up
Yeah,
right now. Um, and again, those are just things as sometimes as fans we don't. Okay, so it says at the combine, the new Titans running back Tajay Spears' medical showed no ACL, loss of cartilage, and arthritis in his knee. Questions about if his career can outlast his first contract. That's why a player of his caliber dropped to the third round.
interesting, interesting.
Yeah, very, very. I want to just circle right back to Isaiah Foskey real quick. And it made me nothing in the great scheme of things, man. It made me absolutely nothing. But that little viral clip of him getting drafted, putting the hat on, and just
Bruh,
getting, being hyped and pumped and saying, "Let's fucking go!" Like that is, I want you to juxtapose that passion, that just that one. You could feel like he wants to be a
oh yeah.
dog, and then you just juxtapose that to like when Peyton Turner got drafted. Just smile and just
Hey,
hey, it just
yeah, I made it. Like I already made it. I made it.
he's like, "Ooh, just swindled these motherfuckers right here. Just swindled."
And look, man. That's the thing about Foskey. That same energy you saw right there. You can see it on tape.
You see when he
You can
play, bro.
see it.
You see it when he
You see it
plays.
when he play. He's trying to kill something. He's trying to destroy something.
I love it.
He's
I love
he's
it.
passionate. I love it, man. I love it.
So let's move on to round 4, and this is Saints did some things in round 4. I don't listen, y'all. I don't have it in front of me of like what picks they traded and blah 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 blah. But round 4 they drafted Nick Salaverde, a guard from Old Dominion, and they traded up to get him. And they had the first pick of the 4th round to get him. So guard, offensive line. This such a funny draft because it's a very meat and potatoes draft,
Yeah.
and it's one of those drafts where I feel like yes, a lot of the picks were kind of need but I also feel that most of the picks, while they were needy, they truly, at least in the minds of the Saints, were the best players on the board. I
Right.
like the Nick uh Salaverde. I think I'm saying that right. Yeah.
Celebrity. Yeah.
Salaverde? I
So,
don't
mm,
know. Pick and it wouldn't be a Saints offensive line drafted where it's like, well, he played at right tackle in college. We're just gonna, he profiles to a guard. And I was
yeah.
like, yeah, that's again the Saints way. But like looking at the offensive line, underrated story, maybe to someone who's looking from the outside. I think us as Saints fans know is that the offensive line really was battered last season,
Yeah.
and it's battered going into next season, which is a big,
Mhm.
huge thing that's going to factor into how successful they are. You have left tackle Trevor Penning dealing with the Liz Frank. It may be a little worse than probably maybe those that probably maybe that injury is a little worse than maybe is led on to believe. You have Andres Pete, who did not finish last season. Has I don't I came was there has Pete played a full season in his career?
Bro, I don't think so.
I don't
I
think so,
really don't.
bro. Don't think so. So that said, um, Eric McCoy, he has that kind of lingering calf issue that comes into play from time to time. Cesar Ruiz, the bill of health, and of course he has his best season at guard in year 3, and then he injures himself and gets a Liz Frank injury. His injury is not as to the extent of that as Trevor Penning is, but still he has a Liz Frank injury. And then Ryan Ramczyk can't practice, bro.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
can't practice. Like he can play on Sundays, but like he can't practice, because of the condition of his knee. So the offensive line is kind of in tatter. So the fact that they went and got a player that, yes, it might be a death-ish type move, I can almost guarantee you Nick Salaverde is going to play a lot next season. He's going to play
He
a
gonna
lot.
play. He gonna play. If he can play, like if he's decent and can understand the offense, dude gonna get some snaps, bro.
Yes.
Ain't no question. Ain't no question. Whether that's at left guard, whether that's right guard, whether that's tackle, he gonna get in, bro. He gonna get it
Yes.
in, and I'm sure they're gonna. They said they're gonna start him at guard, but I'm sure he's gonna cross train that tackle a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I have not watched a lick of tape on him. I just went on
And I won't. That's one position. That's one. I don't watch offensive linemen. You couldn't pay me. You couldn't pay me, bro.
I got a life, bro. No, no. Uh, there's so many other things I could be doing. But I mean, I just going off what people saying, like as far as like DJ and all those people on TV and NFL Network and stuff, just sounded like a solid pick. Like good. He's a good technician. Good athlete. All that stuff. I'm like, fine to me. Sounds good to
Right.
me.
And like I said earlier, he does meet the offensive line, athletic profile. Um, I don't want to spend too much time talking about offensive linemen, but again, it's a good pick because I
It's not a Rick limit.
that's not a Rick Leonard, but I really feel like this team has probably done a better job of being able to self scout themselves than they have in a very long time.
Mm,
And I think that to be a good team, regardless of what level of football or sports you're playing, you have to be able to self scout yourself, and you have to be able to, I say, okay, we're good, we did this well as a team. This is where areas we need to improve. First, a good example of that is going back to the first two picks in this draft. Now, if those picks, and this is all contingent of the picks either hitting and being decent to good to great, but if they draft Breesy and Foskey, and both of those players are good or even great, they have in two moves. This is not even accounting the defensive tackles they signed in free agency, and a likely defensive end they're probably going to sign in free agency at some point after the draft. But they have completely revamped and reworked their defensive line, which
yep.
has been has been a big area of concern, right?
Yeah.
It's been an area of concern of us all off season. Now, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but you can't fault them for trying to fix it. I
Right.
also think that two things. It shows to me that the team is confident that if they have a healthy Lattimore, if they have a healthy Paulson Adebo, and I think this does kind of cool down the potential of them trading an Alante Taylor
Yeah.
or a Bradley Roby. Roby still potentially might go. And if you don't know about, we're talking about the Alante Taylor potentially getting traded. Sorry, it talked about in the Discord. So if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. It shows to me that they feel like they are confident in their secondary, and we'll talk about the safety they drafted later. But they're confident in their secondary for Da to have the defense that he needs or wants to have. They're saying we got to get the front seven in order. Our front seven has to match our secondary, and defensively we're good. And I think if the picks work out, that vision will become a reality. But it's all depending on how the players play, obviously.
No, no question, man. And I think that's just the major key is, like you said, self scouting, knowing where not only where holes are right now, but where potential holes may open up. Or where you weak. And bro, like you said, bro, like if those first two picks hit, man, you completely revamp the defensive line. And look, last year they were what, top three in sacks. People like to say, "Oh, the defensive line, man, they got top three in sacks." You look at the advanced metrics; they were like bottom of the league in pressure rate, hits, all that stuff. They were able to produce sacks, which credit to them for able to be able to get to the quarterback. But sacks are just a very tiny percentage of the game. You know what I'm saying? You have to. We saw plenty of games where quarterbacks back there just making breakfast, bro.
Ooh, chilling, bro.
Making breakfast, flipping pancakes, everything. So it's it's imperative that that D line gets gets better. And it's young now, even the players they signed in free agency, they got young kind of ascending players that that played limited snaps for their teams. We'll see where they go. So you got like a nice young fresh D line, bro, and I'm excited about that, man. Like we get to can't watch preseason, watch the beginning of the season, and kind of just see some new faces, new names on the back of jerseys, and see where they go, and see what that means for the team.
I'm excited too. So I'm gonna, they are doing the joint practices again with the Chargers this
Oh,
preseason or whatever. I don't know how many practices they're gonna do, but at least for one of them, because they usually do. I'm assuming they're doing their joint practice with the Chargers because they probably played the Chargers in preseason. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But
and usually
as
they're
long as
week 2 or 3 of
right,
preseason, like 2 or
so as long as one of the practices fall on a Friday, which is my day off, I intend to go to one of the practices and just watch, man. The last time I did that was I can't. It was when it was me, Chris and Julio met up, and Teddy was the backup. I think that was
Oh
year
yeah.
2 of Teddy being the backup. Yeah, that sounds about right. And so I just want to go and watch and just see the young players, see the team, see how the D line's coming up. Because until we see otherwise, I really do feel that the team deserves credit for what they've been able to do this offseason. Moving on to the other pick that they acquired in round 4, they traded one of their later round picks this year and next year's 4th round pick. They go up and draft quarterback Jake Hayner. It's Hayner, right? Um,
So,
from Fresno State, and I watched a bit of him, and the first thing I can say is the quickness that he as a player is able to process through his reads and reads a defense and throws a ball is super impressive. It is super impressive
and
from
look,
quarterback.
yeah, and the kind of the talking point this season is everybody's looking for that Brock Purdy, that late round kind of
Mm-hmm.
gem that has the smarts to process
It's
and all
kind,
that
it's kind
stuff.
of who he reminded me of,
I
bruh.
mean, like that's what Daniel Jeremiah, he was like, look, if anybody's looking for that Brock Purdy, he's probably that guy in this draft. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just one of those guys that processes well. The only real knock is, not the biggest arm. His deep balls kind of hang or whatever. But other than that, he gets through his reads. He's accurate, good in the pocket. Not a bad athlete at all. He can move around a little bit. Um, so nah, bro. Like I saw that pick. I didn't watch a ton. I just watched like his highlights just to see what he looks like or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, like this dude looks like a Saint quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like,
He does.
like you
He,
just look.
he he looks like one of the better quarterbacks that they've drafted since
Oh,
maybe like
better than
what
Grayson for sure.
getting I would say since he's the best quarterback that they've added to the team through the draft since Chase Daniel.
Absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
the list is Garrett Grayson, Ian Book, and I'm forgetting one that they drafted in 2000.
Brian, no, he was Sandfield. Was that he was undrafted? Canfield.
No, Canfield was drafted. So yeah, Sean Canfield. That was 2006.
And Tommy
So
Stevens. Don't even count Tommy Stevens.
oh God, that 2020 draft was fucking
Oh,
putrid, Ryan. Fucking putrid. Like I wore our draft shirt like that. Oh my God, that was such a fucking. And again, it goes back to self scouting, right? I don't know how much of obviously maybe not too much because a lot of players that they drafted met the athletic profile and prospect matching
yeah.
that Jay has done, but I do feel like, and I can't even maybe verbalize how, but I do feel like was some odor of change of how they evaluated prospects this year. Maybe not athletically,
Yeah.
but with Foskey as an example, he might not work out as a player, but it won't be for lack of fucking trying. It won't be because maybe he doesn't maybe love football
Right.
or Greasy doesn't love football. Marcus Davenport, Peyton Turner. It was, and it was pretty apparent that it was like, I'm big and I'm fast and I'm an athlete, but like football, whatever. Like maybe
No,
like
I know what you said. I think they're putting a higher value on football character.
thank
I
you.
mean, not so much character in general, because
Yeah, because
we're about to get to
Frank,
Sean
Frank
Watson and all.
or Frank Clark may be on the
Frank
way.
Clark,
Like
yeah, they don't give a
the
shit
morals
about
are
that.
still low.
Yeah, they don't give a shit about that. But football character, I think they're trying to put a higher value on that because they see with players like, with Davenport, Turner,
It
stuff
hasn't
like
worked
that.
out, man.
It hadn't worked out, man. It hadn't worked out. Those things you can't coach either.
And you got and at least I appreciate the ability for them to reassess and say, okay. And we had been screaming at it at our lungs like something got to change.
Yeah.
And the Foskey pick is kind of that. Okay, maybe it has changed. One more thing I'll say on Jake Hayner. Obviously, he wore number 9 for Drew Brees. He's watched every
Oh
pass Drew
man.
Brees threw in 2009.
Played
If
for the Saints coaching staff at the Senior Bowl.
the Senior Bowl, if he is just able to become a decent backup quarterback or just a quarterback because he's been another comparison. Someone I don't know who made it from the draft Nick or draft scout is like a Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
I know he's not the perfect quarterback, but like Taylor Heineke, like there's a besides his racism or being MAGA, like there's a place
Right.
for Taylor Heineke in the league, bro.
That's what I'm
Um,
saying. And it
and if
seems
you
like with
if you
Twitter,
get that you get that in
go
the
ahead.
fourth round, you do that all day long.
That's what I'm saying. It seems like Saints Twitter is like, oh, it's a waste of a pick. I'm like, do
Excuse
y'all know how valuable a backup quarterback is? Like,
also, can we talk about the the amount of quarterbacks that we have gone through lately?
we've started like 5 to 6 quarterbacks the last 3 seasons, or something like that. Some
It's
ridiculous
insane.
number. I remember seeing it. I was like, damn, dude, you're right. Like
It's insane.
it's insane. And like, look, Derek Carr, he's been, mostly healthy through his career, but even him, he's, missed games here and there. Look, we got Jameis this season, but that's not going to be something that lasts. And you get a rookie, you get a guy like this cheap, man. He's not even
Cheap.
going to count. Not even going to count against your 53-man roster as far as like salary. So like these are good moves. This is what good teams do.
Good teams. We will keep continue. Give us a second. Get a listen from our sponsors. We'll be right back. So the Saints close out the draft round 5. They traded up again in round 5. If memory serves me correctly. They drafted safety Jordan Howden out of Minnesota. Minnesota. Um, to me, this pick again. We're doing this literally the day that these guys got drafted, so we really haven't been able to tape grind as
Yeah,
it were. But you can kind of just sometimes just kind of go by highlights and just a bit. And to me, this is I watched him very briefly, but what I did see is like, okay, this is their version of okay, we weren't able to get Brian Branch. So like this is our lesser version of drafting Brian Branch, essentially, right? Because you have a player who can kind of play the strong safety position. He can play nickel. And I'm gonna say this: as much shit as we can give them, there's one thing that Jeff Ireland has shown time after fucking time after time is that this man knows how to fucking scout a secondary player. Like when they draft second at this point, bro, I don't even question it. I say, okay,
I ain't question.
all right,
I'm like, okay, they've earned it. They've earned it. He's earned it.
yeah, bro,
And any round too. I don't care first round, fourth round, whatever. Like they do this.
okay, okay. I like, and I like the pick also from the standpoint of one, you can tell he's a physical player. They like to draft secondary players, cornerback, safety, nickel. They like physical players. Um, but kind of like the Miller pick at running back. Again, a very underrated storyline that doesn't get picked up a lot is Marcus May missed a lot of games.
Yeah.
this upcoming season. Teron Matthew is not getting any younger.
Right.
They gotta need to bring Brian Sorensen back, quiet as kept, but gotta get the albino. No apologies to any albino people that may listen to this podcast. But it's a young player who plays the way that the Saints like their secondary players to play, and not including the 2018 draft, and that draft was also a fucking nightmare and a shit show. Excluding that draft, they have hit on nearly every secondary player that they have drafted, and so until I show otherwise,
Wow, that is crazy, though. That's crazy
it's
to
hard,
say.
and that's like the hard besides quarterback. That is such a hard
Oh, bro,
position.
so hard. And I mean, the history with the Saints, bro.
Exactly.
Can he play safety? That was just like an inside joke. Cornerback was just atrocious for years. Like, bro, so that's crazy that they've been able to hit on DBs like that.
Any thoughts on Howding or anything like that?
I don't. I just saw like I saw. I didn't really spend time on him. All I could see was that when I first just quickly looking at him, this isn't like just a special team or nothing like that. You know what I'm
No,
saying? This
no.
is a guy I expect him kind of like with CD Deuce. Not saying they're similar, but kind of like with CD Deuce, you could see immediately like, oh, this is a player right here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's gonna get his in the defense. Maybe not a starter early or nothing like that, but they're gonna figure out snaps for him on defense, whether that's nickel, safety, whatever.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Kind of has a little, again, has like that feistiness or that umph that
Oh yeah, yeah, buddy, I love it.
they like their secondary to have, even though sometimes they don't
They
like
like
it.
it, but they
But
like
then they
it.
don't like it.
And then they don't like it. Like, but bro, figure out what you want, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you want players like that, they gonna be a little chippy. They gonna talk back to the coach a little, you know.
So annoying. Anyhow, they close out the draft. We kind of getting back to where we started is they trade up to the sixth round, getting the Broncos pick and trading up. Sorry, they traded up from the seventh to the sixth. They gave up their seventh and Adam Troutman to move up to round six, and that's when they closed out the draft and drafted A.T. Perry, wide
Yeah.
receiver, Wake Forest, and I I said it earlier. Don't really care how A.T. Perry works out, bro. Like, and I know that is London's dude. So shout out to Landon.
Dude,
But I'm glad they added a wide receiver. So they've added two weapons in this draft. So this is something that we talked about. We wanted them to add weapons. The only position that they didn't add in the draft was tight end. I do think that had Dalton Kincaid had fell to them, that he would have been the draft pick. Going back to round two, I should have. The board left out one player because going back to round two, the board was Jonathan, and this is not in order. Well, kind of. So Jonathan Mingo was a player that they wanted to draft in round two. So was Sam Laporta, tight end, Iowa. They wanted to draft him in round two. Shout out, or I guess not shout out to the Detroit Lions, who is becoming, Saints juniors, but maybe with like better coaching. So the board was Mingo, Laporta, Bosky, Brian Branch. So Mingo went to the Panthers right before the Saints picked. Sam Laporta went to the Detroit a couple of picks before the Saints pick. So the want for them to add a tight end is real. They weren't able to do it in round one with Kincaid. They weren't able to do it in round one with Laporta, but they did add a right receiver and a running back. A.T. Perry kind of just he's bigger, he has explosiveness. Honestly, if he's able to get Traquan Smith off the team,
bro.
please.
The first thing I thought, I watched like 2 games before we got on here. And the first thing I thought is like his tape is so much better than Traquan's. When Traquan came out of I forgot what you're calling it, small school, but so much better.
He went to UCF.
UCF, yeah. so much better, bro. Like I'm like, and like Lance Zierlein and Cynthia Freeland, they were just shocked he was still on the board. They were like, they expect him to go more in the third round. He's
Right.
big, 6'3", fast, ran like a 4.4, physical, um, hands catcher, catches with his hands, gets downfield quickly. I'm like, man, what's the issue here? Apparently, he has a lot of drops the last 2 seasons. But I mean, just me just looking at the tape, I mean, he had to catch like a lot of
Right.
low percentage passes, man. Like this dude was catching it. He hands catching too. This dude gonna play, bro. This dude is gonna play for this team, and this team needed a big wide receiver, and to be able to snatch a guy like that, and late in the draft like that, man, that's huge. Will he work out? We'll see. I don't know where he is mentally or stuff like
Right.
that, man. But like just from the games I'm watching, I'm like, man, this dude can ball, bro. Like he
Let
keep
me
track of the
so
ball, red zone, all that.
let let me and you've talked about this, and you've said it in our Discord, you've said it in text messages. I don't know if you said it on Twitter. You may even said it on this podcast. Let's look at the offense that when Sean Payton left the team, right, till now. Some of it, I don't know how much of it is DA and how much is Jeff Ireland, but they have now went out, got Derek Carr at quarterback. They invested in Jawan Johnson. I'm sorry, Max. He's a decent player. Sorry, bro. I can't go with you there. He's a decent player. Um, AK with his injury history, missing games, injury wise, history of the legal thing. They went out, added Jamal Williams in the draft. They added Keandre Miller, wide receiver last year. Go up, get Chris Olave. Even though it took them a very long fucking time, and we harped on them about it, they start giving Rashad Shaheed more playing time. They went out, they signed at a very low cost deal Brian Edwards, who, when he was with Derek Carr the last time, was productive, a good player for the Raiders, and had a good chemistry and rapport with Derek Carr. In the draft, they also drafted A.T. Perry. They traded Adam Troutman, who had been, I don't know, like an albatross, and they're not putting any more eggs in that basket. Prior to him finding out that he had cancer, they were going to add Fabian Monroe, who was a very younger, nice, up and coming kind of tight end two, made good plays. They have, offensive line still needs some help, but even with offensive line, they went out last year. They drafted Trevor Penning. That pick may or may not work out. I think that's going to really depend on injury wise and how he's able to hold up. But you got to give them credit. They have revamped the team offensively and completely given the team an offensive facelift, because last year was deplorable offensively. Now, Andy Dalton was part of that reason, and play calling was a big part of that reason. So, we can't let them off the hook too much. But as we're kind of in this hope season before the season starts in 4 or 5 months, there should be no excuse besides maybe major injuries, offensive line not working out because of injuries. Also left out that they brought back Michael Thomas on a 1-year deal, just to see, give it one good go and see if he can become not that guy again, but just be a productive, good player for them again. There shouldn't be an excuse, bruh.
No excuse.
No excuse. And as I sit here, it's like, man, shit, maybe Max gonna win that bet, bro. Maybe the Saints gonna win 9.5 games, because
Yeah.
on paper, bro. On paper.
On paper. Hashtag on paper.
That's the new hashtag, bro. Hashtag on paper. They looking kind of good, Ryan. Now, I say that and I preface it by saying all that's good and great. The NFL is such a league that talent wise, I think a perfect example of this is we just look at the Chargers, bro. Just look at the Chargers.
Yeah, yeah.
Got a top 5, top 6 quarterback, and continually underachieves. Some of it injury wise, but a lot of it too is just bad coaching, right?
Right.
So if you don't got the coaching, don't matter how good your players are, your team is, you still may not produce on Sunday because of shit like that. But
Right.
hashtag on paper, got to give a lot of credit to Jeff Ireland. Got to give a lot of credit to Mickey Loomis. Got to give credit to DA in terms of what they've been able to do this complete off season. But all that said, they've done all this. If there's not like a big thing, if they underachieve this season, bro, and I know it's hope season. I don't want to put too much damper on it. But if they've been able to do this and they can't win the NFC South or at least not be a wild card team in the NFC, some heads got to roll. Heads got to roll, bro.
Heads got to roll. I don't want to hear it, man. Like you had all the injury excuses and all that last year. You know, please don't do this again this year where we have all the injuries and all that. That's why I'm so happy they got a nice full draft class of 7 players. The team's
7,
working
bro.
7
7.
players, bro. When the last time we got an influx of 7 drafted
Young.
players? I know we get the UDFA. They're working the phones now, getting UDFA players on board. We'll check that out later. So, bro, it's man, it's hope season, man. We're gonna see. I'm excited about A.T. Perry though. We're just watching him. I was like, okay, now we're ready. Like you just needed that little spice. You got to throw a little cayenne pepper.
I love the spice, bro. I love the spice.
Because the draft was nice and meaty. It was a nice meaty draft. Just, you felt good, but you gotta add a little spice to it. That's A.T. Perry right there, baby. He gonna bring that spice. And it's balance, a balance offense. Look, they went D line, offensive line, safety, quarterback, running back, wide receiver. Like, come on, bro. Like that's a nice ass, well rounded draft, bro. So
It is.
give it to the Saints, man. Just give it to them.
Got to, bro.
Give it to
Got to. As we are the podcast that keeps it real, we
Right.
are the first podcast that will, harp on the team when we feel. But we also, I think we are also aware and cognitive when they do shit well. We gotta give them credit, man.
I give
And
them
we
credit,
got
man. Let them know.
they had a great week. They had a great draft week. They had a good off season. I do think that they will want to sign some free agents within the next couple of weeks. I think they might be wanting to wait until the comp pick formula shit closes out, which they didn't do that last year. They just went out and signed Andy Dalton and could have had a third round comp pick. So maybe growth, bro. Hashtag growth. Hashtag on paper. That's going to be the mottos for this 2023 Saints season, bro. Hashtag growth. Hashtag on paper.
I love it. And just to think, man, like so many people wanted to just start over, tear it down, treat this like a reboot year, and all that stuff, man. It's like I don't want to live through that. I don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like I get it. Like I get the logic behind all that, but man, like you don't know how that stuff works. I want to watch fun football, bro. I just want to watch some fun football. That's it.
That's it. I believe the schedule should be announced either next week or the next week and a half. And so when it comes out, we can start planning when the meetup's going to be. And I think we might have to make the live the live draft party a yearly thing. And if you're a Patreon, and again, big shout out to Bayou Beer Garden. She probably will never hear this, but big shout out to Carlene, who was their event coordinator, was so nice and accommodating, and just being just so helpful in setting up our space that we had on Thursday night. It was amazing. Even when there's like slight hiccups, when all the TVs changed to the NBA playoff game, she was right on it, get it fixed for us. So if you're in New Orleans or Louisiana resident, Bayou Beer Garden, great spot for drinks, food.
Yeah.
Those garlic palm fries, bro. Ooh.
Crack.
I mean, bro, like
those crack sprinkles on them, man.
Bro, I don't even like garlic or Parmesan on that level, but them bitches were delicious, bro. Like my God. But get go check them out. Drink the watermelon margarita, frozen, was good as shit. Also want to give a small shout out to Superior Grill. Um, some of the best queso you'll ever have. The
Mm,
margaritas was great. I called them yesterday, kind of late notice, and see if they could scramble us a table of for 10, 14 people, and they were on it. So just an amazing weekend capped by good decisions that the Saints have made. And there's going to be like a dead period of there's going to be that rookie mini camp and then OTAs, and it's just tumbleweeds, bro, just tumbleweeds.
tumbleweeds.
But we'll still have episodes. We're still going to be putting out content. I do want us to do like a deeper dive in the draft more kind of after we watch players more in depth.
Yeah.
This was the first year that I went into the draft kind of with a blank slate, and it was great, man, because it was like all
Straight
right,
up.
like it was like I didn't have any emotions with the picks. I was like, okay, well, all right, cool, like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe that's going to be my new wave going forward, bro. Like just instead of watching so many prospects pre-draft and having opinions and strong takes, like
Yeah.
no, I'm good. Like my only takes next year is Caleb Williams is the second best quarterback I've watched since Patrick Mahomes, and Brock Byers is one of the best tight end prospects to ever come around. That's it. Only two takes I have, bro. That's it. Not gonna, don't have any more draft takes for next year. But everyone who came to New Orleans, who has been a part of the festivities this week, thank y'all so much. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Not even people who came. So anyone who just listens to us, retweets us, supports us, whether you're Patreon or not a Patreon, thank you. Like weekends like this reinforces to Ryan and I, like, oh, this is why we do this. And I'm not saying it's hard, right? But this is why we do this. We do it for y'all. We do it for
Beautiful.
fun.
I was
And it was,
watching. I was looking at the live stream yesterday that that's uploaded to YouTube
yeah,
from
yeah.
night one. Just like man, they up and down having a blast. We on a little screen, at Bayou Beer Garden having a blast. They didn't even worry about us. They doing their own thing, man. I just
Own thing. Didn't even know that Ryan had a long lost brother in Wayne, and we found him all through the Discord, and it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. So thank y'all. We will be back soon. I don't know. Got to travel and everything, but we'll be back
yeah,
soon. Also, another shout out to Ryan and Bree on their wedding anniversary.
thank you.
But truly, truly, thank y'all for all the support. We'll be back within the next week or so, or maybe we'll drop a little smaller episode, for the first week of May. But don't worry, we'll be back. And with that, we're out.
Peace.